You always told me you loved me, I whispered, staring at the glint of a single blonde hair lying on our white bathroom tile, but now I see it was a lie wrapped in deception. That strand was all it took, one delicate, almost insignificant thread made visible under harsh bathroom light, to unravel 25 years of certainty. The truth I refused to face stared back at me, silent but undeniable. My name is Linda Jackson and I am 61 years old. I lived most of my life in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I raised our daughter Rachel and taught high school literature until retirement. I believed in our marriage, in our shared history stained with love and struggles, in the promises whispered late at night, until that strand of hair planted a seed of doubt in my heart. I never imagined that something so small could hold the weight to destroy a life I thought I knew. But it did. For years, I had noticed little inconsistencies: late nights at the office, unexplained expenses, phone calls answering with silence on the other side, but I dismissed them as the normal fluctuations in a busy career household. David, my husband, was a consultant in finance, charismatic and polished. To everyone else, the perfect partner. To me, he was the man who promised fidelity and shared dreams, the man who held my hand when Rachel took her first steps, who celebrated each of my birthdays with unwavering devotion. Or so I thought. The discovery happened by accident, a quiet afterthought born from a casual change, my attempt to surprise him by swapping his regular shampoo with a more luxurious brand. The next day, I noticed a streak of blonde hair on the sink counter, stark against the white ceramic. David was broad-shouldered and gray at the temples, his hair dark, peppered with silver. Where had that golden strand come from? That night, without confrontation, without demands, I watched. Monitored. Checked for signs I had long stopped seeking, afraid to confirm. I logged his movements, noticed his phone silences, searched for images on social media. Within 24 hours, the truth that had eluded me was illuminated in harsh, undeniable light. David was living a double life, one filled with deceptive affection and professional narcissism, broadcast live across digital channels I never thought he would betray. Revelations like these don't arrive wrapped in fireworks, they creep in silently, sinking claws into every memory and moment, forcing you to re-evaluate the past and brace for the storm ahead. The man I married was unmasked by a strand of hair and a changed bottle of shampoo, leading me down a path of painful discovery and calculated decisions that would challenge my sense of dignity, love, and justice. That is where my story begins, in the quiet, unassuming bathroom where a tiny blonde strand shattered the illusion of fidelity and sparked a journey toward truth no one in my family was prepared to face. The day after finding that single blonde hair, I woke with a sinking feeling that the life I thought I shared with David had been nothing but a carefully guarded facade. As I moved through our home in Charlotte, every corner now felt weighted with suspicion: the closet where an unfamiliar perfume lingered, the laundry bin filled with shirts not quite matching the color palette he usually wore, the subtle shifts in his demeanor during casual conversations. My mind cycled endlessly through these details, the faint scent of betrayal mixing with the familiar comfort of everyday routine. I knew confronting him prematurely would only drive him deeper into deceit, so I chose silence as my weapon. For 24 hours, I let the wheels of quiet observation turn, capturing moments when his guard was down, texts sent hurriedly while I was out, phone calls swiftly ended upon my approach, and social media updates with photos that never quite matched up with the stories he told me. I reached out discreetly to Susan, my dear friend of over 30 years. Susan wasn't merely a confidant, she was the woman who'd weathered my late-night calls during Rachel's childhood illnesses and cheered my small victories during my teaching career. Her practical, unflinching perspective provided the anchor I desperately needed. Over coffee in a quiet cafe downtown, I shared the hair and my suspicions. Her eyes widened slightly at the evidence. She didn't judge. Instead, she nodded sagely. "Linda, you need proof. This isn't just about a strand of hair, it's about your dignity and the truth you deserve. Keep your wits about you and start gathering what you can." Her voice was firm, unwavering, the voice of a woman who understood how better to stand tall rather than fall apart. I began probing details I had previously ignored, like the unusual charges on our joint credit card that added up to nearly $1,500 in just 2 weeks, charges at a boutique salon downtown that I'd never visited, dinner tabs at a sushi restaurant neither of us had frequented. When I questioned David, he shrugged off my inquiries, his eyes betraying anxiety beneath practiced calm. Social media became a minefield of clues. Late one night, While scrolling through mutual friends' Instagram stories, I caught a glimpse of a woman I hadn't seen before, blonde, slender, effortlessly poised, laughing alongside David at an upscale rooftop bar. Tagged discreetly as Ashley Miller, she was sharp-eyed but careful, never posting pictures with David directly but always close enough to raise questions. Over the next few days, I pieced together a silent dossier. Through public profiles, cross-referenced photos, and innocuous comments, I mapped Ashley's weekly meetings and trips, noting how often David's location tags overlapped. More suspiciously, Ashley's followers spiked suddenly, many from his social circle, hinting at a growing awareness or scandal brewing beneath the surface. I wasn't content with just observations. I noticed that David's usual shampoo bottle had been replaced, not a subtle switch, but an entirely different brand, one marketed for blonde hair care. The realization hit me that this was part of a pattern, Ashley's influence bleeding into my home in small, insidious ways, designed to blur the lines between family and betrayal. Determined to firm my evidence, I acted boldly. I swapped his shampoo with a distinct, expensive formula designed for blondes, subtle scents, unique packaging. I then watched patiently. Within 36 hours, the telltale evidence reappeared on the sink, another blonde strand, longer this time. It was the equivalent of a confession I hadn't dared demand. Fueled by this revelation, I recorded my findings, photos of the hair, screenshots of social media, receipts from unexplained expenses, and stored them carefully, prepared for the inevitable confrontation. But before I could act, fate intervened when Ashley, unaware of my suspicions, conducted a live session on social media promoting a fitness clinic. A notification popped up on my phone as I sat at home. David was mentioned. Curious and cautious, I clicked the link. Ashley's face filled the screen, energetic and confident, speaking directly to viewers, thanking them for support. But then, to my disbelief, she panicked briefly, just a few seconds, before cutting off the session suddenly. The reason? A whispered conversation caught on camera behind her, a familiar voice, a man's voice, accusing someone of being caught. The clip had gone viral overnight. Before I knew it, messages poured in from friends, family, even strangers who'd witnessed David's double life exposed live on the internet. It was no longer a secret confined to whispered doubts. The truth was unraveling publicly with terrifying speed. I sat in stunned silence, my hands trembling as I realized that the web I'd cautiously been weaving was now torn wide open. The choice now wasn't whether to seek justice, it was how to navigate a world where my husband's betrayal was dragged across screens and hearts alike. But even amid such chaos, one thing remained unshaken, my resolve to reclaim my dignity and reshape the narrative written by his lies. The shampoo test might have been small, a simple substitution, but it was enough to start a reckoning no longer avoidable. And so, with evidence in hand and courage steeling my spirit, I prepared for the battle ahead, not just to confront David, but to rewrite the story of my own life with the strength, grace, and determination I never knew I possessed. Every strand of hair, every digital footprint, every painful truth was a thread weaving a new tapestry, my story of awakening, and eventual empowerment. The moment I realized that a single strand of hair could unravel everything, I knew the path ahead would be treacherous, yet necessary. David's double life was no longer a suspicion but a looming certainty, and I had to prepare carefully, not just to confront him, but to protect myself, our daughter Rachel, and the remnants of a life that promised to crumble. Strategy became my shield against the storm of betrayal, and patience my most trusted companion. I began by cataloging every piece of evidence meticulously. The blonde hairs found in the bathroom, the switched shampoo bottle, texts I had copied surreptitiously where affectionate words paired with evasive excuses, and the social media posts hinting at Ashley Miller's presence in David's world. I printed screenshots of Ashley's quaint little fitness studio promotions, capturing her optimistic face and the insistent followers who hung on her every post, a stark contrast to the hidden reality between them. Susan, my closest confidant, became an indispensable ally. Our weekly coffee meetings evolving from casual chats to intensive strategy sessions, she provided pragmatic clarity I sorely needed. Linda, you have to protect yourself legally, she urged over steamed mugs in that small cafe in uptown Charlotte. If David catches on before you're ready, he'll bury everything. You need a plan. That plan began with Patricia Anderson, a solicitor specializing in family law, incisive, compassionate, and uncompromising. Her brick office in Charlotte's historic district radiated quiet authority. When I shared the emerging pieces of evidence, she promised literacy in the labyrinth of divorce law, asset division, and social media hazards. In cases like yours, evidence is everything, Patricia explained, tapping the folder I handed her. But you must also think about timing, public exposure, and psychological preparation. Divorce isn't just paperwork, it's an emotional war zone. You need to build a foundation that's unshakable, strategically sufficient, and legally airtight. We agreed that a public exposure, ideally where David's duplicity couldn't be missed or dismissed, was imperative. My goal was not to humiliate him spitefully but to reclaim my dignity and halt the deceit cold. Patricia suggested involving social media directly. If Ashley operated a public-facing fitness brand, then exposing her deception live on her platform or comparable digital stage could ensure witnesses beyond the family circle. And importantly, it would force David into the open. Meanwhile, Rachel, now 38, was grappling with the quiet storms stirred by the discoveries but remained a source of grounded support. One evening, our small family dinner was punctuated by her calm pragmatism. "Mom, it's painful, but you're right to confront it thoughtfully," Rachel said, her dark eyes reflecting years of trust I'd built with her. "This is more than just infidelity, it's a breach of our family's fabric. I'm here for you." Her words fueled my determination even as I feared the ripple effects on our family's fragile balance. Next, I enlisted technical help to monitor social media activity related to Ashley Miller. I contracted with a discreet investigator to track postings, times, and comments, gathering timestamps and data that could correlate David's whereabouts with Ashley's live sessions and meetups. The more digital breadcrumbs I collected, the clearer the picture became. Every step, however, was measured. Patricia warned me of the pitfalls of rushing public exposure without preparation, defamation claims, threats, and the personal toll of escalation. So I composed my own social media response strategy. Any confrontation would be calm, evidence-based, and dignified, leaving no room for David's plausible denial or manipulation. Over several weeks, I refined my approach. I practiced delivering my narrative, neither accusatory nor erratic, in front of Susan and Patricia, who's repeatedly advised me to maintain composure and clarity. "Your power is in the calm truth," she reminded me. "Anger clouds judgment. You want justice, not just revenge." Aware of the stakes, I also braced for personal repercussions. David's closest allies could react defensively, the privacy of my family was at risk, and already subtle tensions at work reminded me to stay vigilant. Every afternoon, after quiet hours of school volunteering and teaching literature to middle schoolers, I reviewed Ashley's online activities. I traced her foot traffic through localized GPS data from public posts, cross-referencing with David's conference appearances and business meetings. The overlap was undeniable. Evidence knitted together not just words or images but a timeline impossible to dispute. I also discovered Ashley had been live streaming sessions in local gyms, sharing workout tips, while David occasionally appeared in the backgrounds, sometimes just a shadow, sometimes clearly visible. One session showed Ashley nervously whispering phone updates about a complicated situation, harshly cutting off the feed when David entered the room. Preparing myself for the ultimate exposure, I coordinated with Patricia on how to handle the inevitable digital backlash. We drafted cease and desist templates and legal notices ready to serve Ashley or David's counsel should they attempt to silence or discredit me. All the while, I kept Rachel informed at every critical juncture, ensuring she never felt sidelined amid the revealing storm. Close as we were, I knew that transparency would maintain our trust. The culmination of the planning phase was deciding the perfect timing, coinciding with one of Ashley's prominent live sessions streamed to hundreds of followers. Linda Jackson, a once trusted mother, would join that stream not as an angry vindictive woman but as the bearer of undeniable truth. Finally, the night before the digital reveal, I sat alone on our porch under a sky scattered with stars and thought about the years we'd shared, the promises made, and the fragile trust forever broken by a strand of hair, a changed bottle of shampoo, and the insidious webs of lies painstakingly woven in the shadows. I was ready. With evidence compiled, allies at my side, and justice in my heart, I embraced the unknown battle ahead, knowing that standing tall in truth was the only path to reclaiming what betrayal had tried to steal. My quiet strength had found a voice, and it was time to let it be heard. The day of the reveal arrived with an ominous calm. The morning sun filtered gently through the lace curtains of our Charlotte home as I sat at the kitchen table, computer open, a glass of untouched tea at my side. David was blissfully unaware that this would be the last day his carefully managed double life would go undiscovered, not just by me, but by the world that had so far been watching silently from the sidelines. The live stream was scheduled for 7:30 in the evening, hosted by Ashley Miller herself, promoting a new fitness challenge to her thousands of followers. It was the perfect stage for unveiling the truth. I spent the hours prior reviewing my notes meticulously, rehearsing in my mind how to maintain composure and clarity. I knew that playing the part of a stoic but resolute woman was crucial. No whimpering confrontations or dramatic outbursts, just straightforward facts, presented with unassailable calm. My ally Patricia had laid out the legal ramifications clearly: control the narrative, own your dignity, and ensure the evidence was undeniable. The first alert came an hour before the live session. Ashley posted on her Instagram story a preview video, smiling and vibrant, showing the studio setup. I watched, heart pounding, as users began commenting with eager anticipation. "Who's ready for the challenge?" Ashley asked on camera, a picture of health and confidence. Little did she know, the narrative was about to shift dramatically. At precisely 7:30, the live feed went active. The studio's well-lit space was visible, Ashley's enthusiastic face filling screens worldwide. I joined the session discreetly from behind the scenes, my friend Susan by my side, ready to capture every moment. Ashley began energetically, guiding viewers through stretches, then shifting to promotional talk about her new app subscription. Comments flooded in: "Love this. Can't wait. You're amazing, Ashley." Until I interrupted calmly, typing into the chat box, "Excuse me, Ashley, can I speak honestly?" Seconds of confusion flickered across her face as the chat notification alerted viewers. "What's this about?" she asked, trying to maintain control. With my heart steady, I addressed the feed. "My name is Linda Jackson. I'm here because I have undeniable proof that David Jackson, Ashley's fiancé, is leading a double life. This strand of blonde hair, found in our home after I replaced his shampoo, proves Ashley's presence." I held up the stark evidence to the camera. This shampoo was never used before in our house. The presence of blonde hair on David's pillow where there should only be brown hair is not a coincidence. Ashley's expression flashed to shock, then masking. She glanced off camera as David entered through a doorway, unaware that thousands were witnessing his exposure in real time. I continued, unwavering. "This is undeniable. I have screenshots of messages, expense receipts, and social media interactions that demonstrate David's deception. I do not seek to shame but to reveal truth. This is not only a betrayal of me but of our daughter Rachel and of the trust you, his followers, put in him." David's face went white as realization dawned. He stammered, "Linda, this isn't what it looks like. Save your words," I interjected firmly. "Actions speak louder. Ashley, you promoted this relationship as genuine. Yet, here we expose deceit. Your fitness brand will suffer, as will your credibility." The chat exploded. Viewers poured in with comments, some expressing shock, others siding firmly with me, some attacking Ashley and David with harsh words. Some sympathized with a betrayed wife, while others debated the ethics of airing private disputes publicly. Ashley's live stream broke down into chaos. She tried to regain control but the damaging proof was everywhere: my hair, my documents, my calm authority. In a moment of desperation, she stopped the live feed, but the damage had been done. Clips were downloaded and reposted, spreading like wildfire over Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. I sat back, Susan squeezing my hand quietly. "You did it," she said softly. "You stood your ground." The repercussions were immediate. David's consulting firm placed him on leave, pending investigation into his judgment and character. Ashley's social media following plummeted, sponsors withdrew offers, and her once promising career teetered on the edge of collapse. Rachel confronted her father within days. "How could you?" she demanded, voice cracking yet fierce. "How could you hide this from me? From Mom? I trusted you." David's apologies rang hollow, weighed down by the evidence stacked against him, leaving us all to reckon with the shattering truths. In the weeks that followed, Patricia moved swiftly to secure my financial safety, filing for divorce and freezing joint accounts to prevent further depletion by David. The court process was grueling but methodical. I fortified every claim with documented evidence, including digital trails and witness transcripts. Family gatherings became rare, tense spaces. Susan, though hurt, stood by my side unwaveringly. Richard kept his distance, struggling silently with betrayal and his own conflicted loyalties. I found solace in my teaching, anger channeled into championing self-respect and justice for women betrayed when least expected. My story became a cautionary tale shared quietly in classrooms, support groups, and community forums. Rebuilding was slow. Trust shattered is delicate to reweave. Yet, with every day, with every honest conversation, strength grew anew. The shampoo test might have been small, almost trivial, but it was the first stone cast that shattered a glass ceiling over my life. That single strand of hair, unwanted in my home but found with precision, was the thread that unwound deception. And from those threads, I began weaving a new identity, one forged in truth, resilience, and an unyielding commitment to honor myself above all. The battle was far from over, but I had won the first and most critical battle, reclaiming my own power. This was no longer a silent marriage, no longer a hidden betrayal. It was my story, my voice, my vindication. And I would tell it loud and clear. The days after the live exposure were surreal, like watching a slow-motion unraveling of a carefully constructed lie that had entangled not only David and Ashley but torn apart the fabric of my family. I moved through each moment with a mix of fierce determination and fragile vulnerability, knowing that the battle for justice and dignity was only beginning. The aftermath was far more complex than the revelation itself, involving not only legal maneuvers but emotional reckonings that threatened to undo years of trust and affection among the people I loved. David's consulting firm reacted swiftly, placing him on immediate administrative leave pending an internal investigation into his personal conduct and potential breaches of company ethics. The shock of public exposure reverberated through his social and professional circles like a seismic wave, leaving contacts divided and reputation risking irrevocable damage. I remember the day Rachel confronted her father vividly, a confrontation charged with years of hurt and disillusionment. In our cozy living room, heavy with whispered accusations and unspoken apologies, Rachel's voice broke with a mixture of rage and sorrow. "Dad, how did you let this happen? How could you pretend to be someone you're not? How could you disrespect Mom and me like this?" David's usual composure faltered, replaced by an almost raw regret. "I was a coward, Rachel," he admitted. "I let everything spiral out of control. But I never wanted to hurt you or your mother. I'm sorry, I'm truly sorry." The sincerity was poignant but insufficient to erase the betrayal. Rachel stormed out, and that moment marked a rift neither time nor words could immediately mend. Meanwhile, my friendship with Susan deepened, forged in the fires of shared grief and mutual support. Susan was often the voice of reason when I teetered on the brink of overwhelming fury or despair, reminding me that my fight was not only for myself but for the dignity of every woman betrayed in silence. "Linda, remember," she said one evening as we sat in her sunlit kitchen, "you are not alone in this. Your courage sets a powerful example. Keep the fight strategic, not personal." Patricia Anderson continued her exemplary work through the labyrinthine divorce proceedings. She moved quickly to block David from accessing joint bank accounts, freezing assets just in time before he could withdraw significant sums. The court filings highlighted his infidelity, emotional negligence, and financial irresponsibility, framing my petition for an equitable distribution of our shared wealth. Legal battles are never just about money, they are about power, control, and reclaiming agency. For me, it was about securing a future unmarred by betrayal, where my voice mattered, and my contributions were recognized. Ashley Miller's public downfall was swift and consequential. Once celebrated in her niche fitness community for empowering women, she became a cautionary tale overnight. Sponsors dropped her, her social media following plummeted, and the bright spotlight she had cultivated dimmed to a flicker. I did not celebrate this. I understood that consequences, no matter how just, carry human cost. My own social circles buzzed with a mix of sympathy, admiration, and cautious distance as the news spread. I found unexpected strength in the solidarity of women who had endured similar betrayals, whose silent heartbreaks resonated with my own. Support groups, online forums, even new friendships blossomed around shared stories, validation, and hope. As summer turned to fall, I made significant personal changes. I moved from the house that had borne witness to so much both joyful and painful into a serene cottage near Freedom Park, a fresh start symbolized by pale blue walls and the scent of magnolia trees outside my window. The space was mine, chosen carefully and filled with memories of resilience rather than concealment. Rachel and I began attending counseling together, navigating the tangled path from disillusionment toward understanding. The sessions unearthed buried feelings of abandonment, trust shattered and rebuilt in fragments of honest communication. Slowly, the daughter and mother who had weathered storms separately found new ways to anchor each other. Richard, once distant, sought reconciliation. I recognized his own journey through denial and regret. He apologized quietly one afternoon over coffee, sheepish but sincere, acknowledging the painful truths he had resisted but now accepted. Our family, though forever changed, began to knit itself into a new pattern, one woven from honesty, humility, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable realities. In December, as the holiday season approached and festive lights adorned the streets of Charlotte, I received a message on my phone that stopped me cold. David wanted to talk, to meet and apologize face to face before the divorce was finalized. I debated for days. Part of me wanted closure, the human need for an ending, even a fragile one. Another part feared reopening wounds that barely had scabbed over. I decided finally, for my own peace, to meet him, not to reconcile the past but to affirm my dignity. We met in a quiet cafe, far from the homes and memories we shared. His eyes were wearied but earnest. "Linda," he began, "I lost myself in lies, and I lost you. I don't ask for your forgiveness, not yet. But I hope one day you might find it in your heart." I took a deep breath, steadying the pit of my stomach. "David, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or forgetting doesn't mean peace. I am choosing to live beyond the pain you caused. I grow stronger when I refuse to let you define me." The conversation ended without promises, but with mutual respect, an important detour toward healing. Months later, as I tucked Rachel in one night, I reflected on the years of love and betrayal, wisdom and heartbreak that had shaped us. I understood that life rarely offers perfect closure, but it does offer resilience to those brave enough to claim it. I am Linda Jackson, a woman who faced betrayal, uncovered the truth with relentless courage, and emerged not broken, but rebuilt. My dignity remains intact. My story, mine to own. And in that, I find not just survival, but triumph. The soft light of the early morning seeped through the curtains of my new home in Charlotte, casting long shadows that whispered of endings and beginnings. As I sat with my steaming cup of coffee staring out over the quiet street, I felt a current of calm flow through me, hard-won, deeply earned. The storm of betrayal, exposure, and the painstaking process of rebuilding was behind me, yet its lessons pulsed in every heartbeat. I was Linda Jackson, at the cusp of my 62nd year, a woman renewed by truth, tempered by experience, and resolute in her pursuit of dignity. The tangled web spun by David's double life stretched far beyond the strands of hair that first unraveled his facade. It revealed fragilities and failures, not just in him but in the fragile trust built over decades. Yet, paradoxically, it was through this devastation that I rediscovered my core, the unshakable self that refused to be defined by another's betrayal. Rachel and I had grown closer through our shared journey, finding in each other a wellspring of support and understanding. The scars left by David's deception were deep, but they no longer dictated our lives. We spoke of boundaries, of rebuilding trust where it could still flourish, and of honoring ourselves by refusing to carry others' burdens indefinitely. Susan became my rock, her friendship a constant balm. We organized gatherings of women who had known similar betrayals, spaces where stories weren't whispered but spoken loudly, where pain was valid and healing communal. The power of these connections affirmed what I'd long believed: no woman should face such trials alone. Professionally, my work took on new meaning. Speaking at local support groups and educational forums on the intersection of personal trauma and resilience allowed me to transform my pain into purpose. I began advocating for women's rights in relationships, encouraging strategic action over passivity, and fostering environments where dignity was non-negotiable. The legal conclusion of my divorce, while procedural, symbolized the severing of chains, financial security restored and emotional autonomy reclaimed. Though David sought no reconciliation, I held no bitterness. Forgiveness was a future endeavor, not a prerequisite for peace. My focus remained on forward momentum, on nurturing the life that awaited beyond the shadow of betrayal. Reflection often carried me back to the moment I discovered that single blonde strand. Such a small thing, so easily overlooked, yet the catalyst for profound transformation. It embodied the fragility of trust and also the strength of quiet observation and courage. That hair was the thread that, once pulled, unraveled the illusion but also wove a new narrative, one where truth conquered artifice and where a woman, underestimated and sidelined, reclaimed her story. The social media storm that had consumed David's duplicity was a mirror reflecting modern realities, where private lives are played out in public arenas and where accountability, once elusive, can happen instantaneously. Navigating that landscape demanded vigilance and strategic savvy, qualities I honed under immense pressure. It taught me that empowerment often comes clothed in patience, careful planning, and unwavering moral clarity. Some evenings, I still found traces of sadness visiting my thoughts, the betrayal wounding the deepest recesses of love and trust. But these moments no longer overwhelmed me. Instead, they reminded me of the battle fought and the resolve forged. I had become a witness not only to others' deceit but to my resilience, to the fierce capacity to rise from ruins. Walking through the freedom of my garden now, I saw more than plants and flowers. I saw metaphors for growth and rebirth. Just like those blooms that push through the earth after harsh winters, so had I emerged, sometimes battered, sometimes bruised, but always blooming. In the twilight hours, when the world softened and quieted, I whispered into the still night a promise to myself and to every woman who hears her story and mine, that dignity is ours to defend, that betrayal may bring pain but never defines our worth, and that justice tempered with grace is the most powerful legacy we can leave. Linda Jackson's journey is far from typical, yet it is profoundly human, a testament to the enduring spirit of a woman who faced deception not with silence or surrender but with strategic courage and unbreakable dignity. The final chapter is unwritten, vibrant with possibility, grounded in lessons learned and truths embraced. I stand ready, not as a victim of circumstances, but as an architect of my own future, guided by integrity, resilience, and the undeniable power of truth. And in that power, I have found freedom.